So I want to show you what I've done so far since the last video. You can actually see, if you're looking, I've got the sharps in here now, which means I've gone through and I've filed and notched the first set of keys here. Now you can see after about the first octave or so, the sharps are no longer in there, and you can actually see and hear the step where I still need to file these keys. So that's where I left off. I did a few of these off camera before I started filming to try to get the hang of it. I've got a better feel for it now. I still change my technique a little bit here and there, but in general, as you'll see here when I go to show how I'm doing this, I follow the same general procedure. The trick on these, since I'm actually hand filing these, I'm not using a router or anything like that. The trick is getting the notches square and clean looking. And I think I've done a pretty good job, considering especially this is the first time I've ever done this. I don't do a lot of work with files in general, so this is kind of an all new thing for me. But I'll kind of show you what I do as I go here. In the last video, I showed how I actually scored and marked where the notch depth needs to be, so it's even all the way across. But I've started working on filing those to make sure that they're square, and doing that by hand is a little bit tricky to make sure they're not, kind of rounded or tilted or anything like that. So I've got a technique that I use to at least check it and touch it up, and I'll show that. But as far as the actual filing goes, I've got the main process down, pretty consistent. I'm not necessarily fast at it. I'm not trying to be fast. I'm just trying to make sure I do it right. But I'm making progress, so that's kind of what counts. Got a long ways to go here. Like I said, I've only got the first octave or so. I've got all these keys still yet to do. I'm not close to being done. But I keep chipping away at it little by little. So I'll show you one or two keys here. I probably won't have a big time lapse of the full video, but once I maybe make some progress, I'll cut back in and show you guys again later. But I'll get set up here, and we can do one or two keys, go through the full process at regular speed, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I got set up here. Equipment that I've got a wood vise that I mounted to my bench here. And I actually do have some cork facing on this. I went and got some just simple adhesive back cork, cut some strips and attached it here so I can grip onto the keys without marring them up. I also have an assortment of files. I've got two that are more of a coarse file. This one does not have a safe edge, so it's all four edges of it are graded. This one actually does have a safe edge, so this side is rough for filing. This side has been ground smooth, so it's not going to leave as much of a scratches, or it's not going to remove material. What I have found with this, though, and maybe it's just because this is a cheap file, is that if I rub this edge against the plastic keytops, where the knurling or the grading from the file extends to the corner, I will get little rounded extensions that do cut that off. So even though this is a safe edge, I try not to rely on it for clean notching. But those two are coarse files, and then this file, it's a little bit smaller, but this is actually my fine file. So this is what I use to go through, and I actually do my notching here. Because it's smaller, I've got really good 90-degree corners here, so I can get good corners in my notches. And then this, removes much less material and leaves a smooth finish when it's done. Aside from that, I've got a couple other things. I've got a little triangle file. I haven't really used this a whole lot. Just some kind of general picks and things laying around that I don't really need. I've got a steel rule here. I've used this a little bit to set on the keytops to protect areas I don't want to file. So I've scratched it up a little bit, but I'm not set on that method either. I've used it a little bit. And then the other thing I've got, I actually have a carpenter square here, and when I go through and I do the final notches on the keys, I can actually use this against the top of the key on the side, or I guess the front area of the key on the side, and I can use this to make sure that I've got a reference point for nice square corners. So I do use this frequently. And then the final thing I'm doing, I'm actually putting a satin finish on these keys, so they come glossy. This was an old, obviously it's an 1890 piano. It had ivory keys originally. One of the tips I seen from a rebuilder is to actually use 4/0 or 40 steel wool, the ultrafine stuff, and go through and buff the surfaces with the steel wool to remove the gloss finish. And you're left behind with the satin finish, and it has kind of a different texture to it. It feels really smooth, but your fingers can kind of grip it more similar to what actual ivories would be. And I think it's going to have a good look on the the age of this piano. It's going to fit well rather than being everything super shiny glossy. And then if I get any scratches or anything on the keys too, that can kind of help clean that up. So I'm going to grab the next key here in line. And what I'll do is I'll just clamp it in. I do a couple little cleanup things first. So in my earlier videos, I use the table saw to cut back that material. So I'll take my fine file and any of the shavings that are left behind from that, I go through and clean those up a bit. Just get the top of the key looking a little nicer. Not perfect, but just, I don't have that frayed edge there. And then what I'll go through here, I'll put the key back in the clamp with the plastic top facing me. Actually, before I get too far ahead of myself, I'm going to get the key front here where it extends past the bottom. There we go. Apologize that you couldn't see that. I'll readjust the camera. A little bit further back. Try to get it aimed a little better. There we go. So I'll go through, this one's already done, but I'll show you what I did. I took my coarse file and I filed across the top like this, even to the wood surface, and then I came through with my fine file and I did the same thing. And I'm actually filing a little bit on the wood, not with the intention of removing the wood, but just to kind of clean up that surface. And you can tell it's, when you feel it across, it's actually very smooth then. Okay, so the next step, I'm going to come over here. Doesn't matter which side you start with first. In this case, both sides are going to have to be notched. But I'll put it in the vise with the plastic facing towards me. Secure that down. I get it where I like it. I go through again with my coarse file first. And I file across the key top. I can probably do this again to get you an over-the-shoulder view. Make sure my arm's in the way. Go. Let's see, I can't make this go any taller, but I can move you. Put you right there. Oh yeah, you can see pretty well from there. So I'm just going right on the wood surface, and I'm being careful around where this notch is. Don't want to remove too much material. So I got the coarse work done. I'll switch back over to the fine file. Get some of these longer strokes in here. Come up and get the key top. I guess this is the side of the front. Now some of my keys, the wood was actually a little bit wider than the key tops. So this is one of those. So I've got a little bit of wood protruding on this side, so I'm actually going to try to get that flush with the key front and key top. That's a lot better. I'm just through with my fine file then. Remove any tool marks I might have from the coarse file. We got some on the front a little bit here, so clean that up a little bit. There's a little bit of glue residue left behind. That will get cleaned up with the seal wool once I get to that point. So that's pretty good. Now, before I flip it, I'm actually going to start working on this notch. So this is an area where, might not show up in this video, but right where I've got my fingernail, I had previously scored this. So I'm going to take my file, and with the larger ones, sometimes I do this with the coarse files. I've also done this with the shallow ones here. This one is the one that has the safe edge here, so I could go through here carefully with the safe edge down and just take off material. Maybe I'll just keep doing it like this. And I do this nice and slow. I'm working on just going right up to that score mark. Blow the excess away every so often. Now I'm trying not to put a lot of pressure down onto this surface. I want to keep all my pressure going sideways to make the notch. And when I do the fine filing, I'll clean up that corner with the fine file. And just as I look at it here, I'm getting close to that mark. So now that I'm getting close, I'll switch back to the fine file. Clean up this edge a little bit. Can't see my edge, so I'm right there on it. Keeping this nice and flush. This is giving me that clean 90-degree corner. And then what I will do is I'll clamp this back up. I can see a little bit better this way. So I'll just come straight down. It's facing the wrong direction for the camera, I know, but I'm going right down this notch. I get some of the glue residue in here every now and then, so I gotta try to take care of that. Okay, so once I kind of get where I think I'm pretty close, I'll grab my square here, and I can see, depending on the angle of the light, I can actually see my notch mark. I'm a little bit back from it, so I'll square this up to the front edge of the key. In my mark, and then I can just go and keep working the file down. And I've got the metal rule here, and the sound will change when I start hitting the metal rule. So once I seem like I'm flush with that surface everywhere, and I know I've got a nice square corner, and I can come back through, and I can do the sides like this, kind of attack it from both directions. There we go. So that's one notch done. I can just double check my squareness here if I really want to. Let's do some micro fine tuning. once I'm happy with how it looks, I can move the other one in this case, the other side. I will, before I'm completely done, I'll put it back on the key rail and check it against the keys next to it. So this side's done. One thing I do kind of do is I also will come back this way and just kind of round that sharp edge off a little bit. It's still going to be pretty much a 90-degree corner, but it's now rounded and not, sharp feeling. So, I don't know if you can see that in the video. That notch is nice and clean. It's got a crisp corner on it. And I'll do the other side next here. Down, get you a little bit of a closer view. There we go, that might be nicer. There we go, we'll try that. As long as it doesn't get in my way too much, it can stay there. See what I'm doing here. Put the file in the way. I don't want to dig too much into the white. That's why I kind of get this notch cut before I get too much of the filing done there. So when I come through the fine file, I can fix the corner, essentially. Up here. There we go. That's nice looking. Let's fix this notch. You can see the edge is not very square. It's a little bit of a raised section, so sometimes I can get it nice and square. This way. Okay. So now, got it close. So let's move this over here. I think you guys can see that a little bit. Just one more time. So I'll put this back. You can see the key next to it. Look at the one for right now. So if I take a look at that, it's pretty close. There's not much that is needed. I might just file that corner down just a tiny bit to make it match the other one a hair better. Just a little bit taller, but this is kind of the process I go. I try to get it nice and square. And if I need to make any micro adjustments, I'll come back here one last time and make them. And then once I'm happy with it, I'll go through into the steel wool to give it the satin finish. Let me make my adjustments here. Get you guys angled again so you can see. This is the tedious part, filming it. Just doing it's not so bad. So I said, it's this corner here I want to bring back down a little bit. So clamp it in here. Move you around. Maybe a different angle here you can see a little better what I'm doing. this corner. Not a lot, just a little. So I didn't take much off, just a little bit. A little bit of glue residue on the underside. I can kind of make sure that's off. I'll check it before moving the camera here. I'm happy with that. That's pretty good. So now that I've got it lined up just how I want it, I go through like this. Create a lot of dust doing this. Now I can set the key out. Make sure you guys can see it. You can kind of see it. So I go through here and you might be able to tell this is really shiny. Got some lights above my workbench here, but you can see the glossiness of that. So this is 4/0 steel wool. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to keep all my strokes going lengthwise to the key on the top of it. There is just a very, very fine grain pattern almost, just from the scuffing that gets left behind. It's only visible in just the right light. Now maybe we can see this here. You can see now that big reflective glare is gone and it's just left with more of a satin sheen, which that's what I was going for. So I'll go through and do a little more. I can check it against the bright light and make sure I don't see any more glare spots. And I got to do the front too. But that's the process I'm using on all of these. Ooh, there we go. I'm applying a decent amount of pressure. And then I can kind of come back through and do some light pressure ones. So I'm going to try to make it look kind of as even as possible. There we go, happy with that. Make sure my sides are good. And I rounded both of those. You can feel it. This is where if I had any more glue residue, you can make sure it's off of the keys. That's a decent amount on this spot. It's gone now. So now, just do the fronts, and sometimes on the fronts I clamp it in my vise. Clamped in there like that, you can see it. This is kind of a little bit tricky to get up underneath the lip on this, but it can be done. Usually get that area first, and once I'm happy with it I can get the rest of it. I kind of do on the fronts, I do both directions. kind of whatever it takes to get the surface all the gloss removed off of it. Try not to really do swirls too much. I just keep my motions in 90 degrees of each other. Pretty happy with that. So yeah, before this was much more glossy, reflective. Now it's just got a satin finish. So I can take it out and I can bring it over here, put it back on the key rail, and I'll show you the end result. Move this guy back over here. So there we go. And let's do the top down view. So this was the key I just did. This was the one that was in there previously. That notch is nice and even. It's got the same satin finish on it now that the rest of the keys that I've done have. And if I go and grab the sharp that goes in there, it should just sit right in place, just like the other ones previously. So I'll go grab that now. I'll drop that in. Okay, here we go. Good fit. It's got room to move. The keys are down, the sharps can come down. So there you go. We'll get the spacing on it later when we rebush the keys. I'll keep working the rest, and then as I make progress, I'll show you guys kind of where I left off, what it looks like. I'll probably do a lot of these off camera, but we'll go from there. Go. Again, nice and even. So I think this will be the end of the video. When I come back, I'll do more, and should have pretty good progress. Maybe I'll come back when it's all done, or maybe we'll fit one more here in the middle, but I think this is a good stopping point for now. I'm up through key 20 on the keyboard. So that's roughly almost a quarter of the way there. So making some progress. Thanks for watching.